Hello? Looks good. Let me turn down the sound. Let me check the sound, guys. Okay, there we go. We'll get started here in a minute. Let some people join in. There we go. We got some people. Hello, everyone. Thanks all for joining in today. Today's live. Again, I do a live show at the last Sunday of every month. That's scheduled. Everything else I do is pretty much a pop-up when I'm inspired or I got an idea I want to talk about. And thus, here we are today. Thanks all for joining again. Hello, Tani. Hello, Sheena. Hello, Jennifer. And hello, Victoria. Tornado love. All right. The work is constant. So that's the idea I've got for today. And one of the biggest truths I had to be okay with was my behavior in the moment. The behavior in the moment is always judged by the self in the moment according to time. And exploring the unknown self without direction, without leadership, without authority, without knowing how to, is a very uncertain feeling for most of humanity. Most of humanity are followers. We follow directions. We follow our teachers. We follow the rules at work. We're not saying this is right or wrong. We're just looking at the construct on how the human experience was developed, formed, and understood from an awakening point of view, so we all can have insight to our own kingdom and do those ideas to deconstruct our belief system so we can live the behavioral life of truth, the truth of you. The truth of time is still true and it's still validated by the will of the now, and you have that truthful experience on however you're perceiving reality. But when you're looking at yourself and you're doing the work of evolution, realize in the constant flow of reality, the constant idea, there's a quality of change that is constant, and there's also a quality of safety and security that the human relies on and might not necessarily want to do the work of change, which again is unexplored and uncomfortable, and then repeat themselves in a manner of speaking with the belief systems as a choice of behavior. And that behavior is not right or wrong. Again, it is subjective and unique to the person that is choosing that reality. The shared realities are shared in commonality through communication, but the uniqueness is truly subjective. Each individual universe is true to itself. So when you're doing the work and you find yourself in a space that is comfortable, and that space is equated to an idea of comfort that must be maintained, then you know you have more work to do, because creation isn't a maintenance deal. It's not a controlling deal. We are already what we are: eternal, invincible, indestructible, unconditional, unjudged, single points of awareness that is a creative force in reality that gives that single awareness its truth in an infinite number of ways it does it. Realities. We have a fucking reality. And the only way we validate it is with our point of view, our awareness of it. Now, our mind might sell us a story of this is true, that is true, but we're not looking at what's true and what's false anymore. We're looking at what's true to the nature of reality, the nature of the laws, the nature of the self, for rediscovering how we behave as a nature of us without the ridicule of our own mind, questioning and judging our own beliefs in the moment. How do you know you're having a bad time? Well, emotions will tell you that. And in those bad times, you can't look at the times, the causality, the sales job you gave yourself, you've done enough work, and things are still happening to you. You can't look at those things as the cause of the feeling. Those are indicators to say, hey, by the way, here's a reality, and you're reacting to it. So you're telling yourself, this is something you need to look at as the experience of you. Now, I know it's very seductive to have a purpose on this planet. I know we all want to assign this to some external meaning. Well, if you look at humanity, we've been selling our stories reasons, or selling ourselves stories of reasons since the beginning of history. Now we can palette as far as a marker. So we're looking at causality and constant. And it's a way to soothe the pain. It's a way to explain the good and the bad and the reasons. Judges, juries, laws, they're all enforced and put into places so we can explain the reasons of a negative time. And if it isn't a negative time and it's a positive time, then we revere them usually as miraculous or deserving, or you're worth it, or some people that get good realities end up kicking it in the nuts because they truly don't deserve it because their worth is in the toilet. So if we look at the work, we don't know what's beyond humanity. But I have a knowing inside myself that is not a debatable truth. So I can speak these things, although I haven't been beyond humanity. I've been within my kingdom, and there are certain vibrational truths that stay constant within me. And one of those is the law of existence. So my existence is constant, and I don't deny it. I don't debate it. I don't use an emotion, a belief system that equates to an emotion, whether I'm going to continue or not, or my light's going to be extinguished. That doesn't have a belief attached to it. There's a knowing, and that's immovable because it's a law. So in that self-discovery, and the work is constant, I can, with all my isness, my knowing, know that the human experience starts and stops with the human. So the work that we continue beyond humanity will not have the same vibrational idea of effort and pain and hope and outcome and measurement, the things that we do to keep us going in this idea of humanity. And my work is evolutionary. It offers a whole bunch of ways to look at reality. The evolutionary is mine. It is not claimed. I've evolved because of my work, my choices, my realizations, my light, and my kingdom. And everyone gets to do that. The constant of the work is very diligent. It's difficult because you're going to run across many vibrational worlds that you're looking in the past and don't understand this world, why it's not equating. And the worlds, according to the humanity, if you do enough this, you should have an outcome of some debatable happiness or something you can be proud or accomplished by. And this work doesn't offer that. It doesn't offer a grabbable, holdable piece of identity that you can claim, because it fades with time, just as all successes do. All empires are destroyed by time. You know, the lessening of the value of that, and then it disappears. Off the top of my head, talking to a friend today, Hollywood used to be an empire. It's not, right? It's not an empire. It doesn't have control over things anymore because it's not the final say of it anymore, because humanity will not be, or creation in a larger sense, will not be limited. Eventually, all limitations are demolished by the will of each individual light being. So, when I was looking at the work that goes beyond humanity, I can't claim what's going to go on. So if I'm an Arcturian, then in the next life, their average lifespan is about 100,000 of our Earth years. 99,000 and some change is their average lifespan of our equatable Earth years. And to them, since they don't use or value time and there is no age in that aspect, then it's not old or young, and there's no hurry, and there's no outcome. And then I looked at humanity, and we're a blip in comparison. We're not even 100 years. I would imagine, if they're still teenagers when they're 10, 15,000 years old in that aspect, right? So if we go beyond humanity, and their work is discovering the self, but it doesn't have the same equatable emotions attached to it, then their work isn't looked in the same way as humanity. So if you want to give yourself a life of absolute extraordinary abilities with an extraordinary state of being that does not liken itself to the mandates of standardizations that you bought into over time, the beliefs of religions and political points and parents' points and what you're supposed to do, and equated with the belief systems of your own victimizations and assigning that to a causality of your life. And you look at that work and don't use that as a source to interact and behave in your constant, then your constant work will evolve those ideas, and then you will be in a state of being where your life in this now doesn't subject itself to the waverings of human interactions. And the work is constant. You're going to have to do that. You're going to have to do the work. Whenever you sit down and relax and take a thing, an emotional break, well, then you're still using emotions. When you're a creator of the constant now, emotion self, there's no emotions to validate or invalidate your existence. So you might be resting and relaxing, but you're not taking a break. You're resting and relaxing. The relationship is different. The action is the same, but the relationship is different. And by the way, all experience is lessonary. Every experience has a lesson in it, but let's not be idiots and look for the lesson. Because then we're going to have to use our memory and grab an experience, and out of that experience, we're going to compare it to a memory of what is lesson. And then we're going to take that lesson, and then we're going to wonder what the lesson is supposed to mean. And look how much fucking distraction that is. Look how much now is just wisping away because your attention's in your memory and you're supposed to be learning a lesson. If you had 99,000 years as a human, I bet you would be really good at it by the end of the show. Because we're natural creators. You're not going to ever keep yourself limited. Humanity shows us that every day. The next generation, the miracle generation that doesn't put up with the generation before, well, they're just not buying into it. Why? Because our generation said we're not buying into it. Why? Because my previous generation said we're not buying into it. It's an evolution. It's constant. So you, as 100,000 years old, would be a completely different human as regards to what you were when you were a child. Humans hold on to their childhood, not in the idea of what they were as a childlike, childish we're talking about. The childish idea person of getting away with something and playing at work and ha ha ha. No, we got to grow up and get back and work and get serious again. You don't have to do that. You don't have to be a child anymore. You can be an evolutionist in your own kingdom and mature and grow up into you. And that takes constant work. But it's not constant effort. It's the awareness, surrender, the humility. My work, my body of work over the last 9 years has brought me through an array of self-expressions. And each one of those self-expressions to me in the moment were my truth. Whether my mind debated it or not is irrelevant. Because every spoken truth, any actionable truth, any truth of the now is the best version of myself. And if I have the rankings of humility and surrender to the awareness of my own truths of time, ready to be disseminated by my own will of choice, then I can take my moment and look at that with humility and allow that self, unregretted, to pass ever so nicely into the etherics. Because I'm no longer that self. I'm not the self I was in 2015, 2018, 2020. I'm growing constantly. But it doesn't pay off in objectionable dividends. It doesn't pay off with success. It doesn't pay off with measurable items of humanity's acceptance. It pays off in here. Those things happen, but you're no longer relying on the outside to validate and create the inside. You start to realize the way you feel, not the way you think about how you feel, not the way you think about things should be, because those are all emotional ideas. So when you leave the world of emotion and you find yourself empty with no certainty and no feeling of good or bad, and you realize people love to destroy themselves, because as soon as they get good, they find a reason to destroy themselves. And they don't do it necessarily to themselves. They destroy their happiness because they don't deserve it. So they use other people to hurt. And they'll hurt those people in that idea of attacking, whether it's an argument, whether it's whatever it is. But they haven't been okay with themselves. They're not doing the work. So they're reacting to the outside to destroy so they can grab attention and feed that emotion, that emptiness that's starting to hurt them because they have no identity. So they behave in a certain way that attracts attention so they can be fed that value of, hey, you're worth my attention, which is energy, and energy is everything. Energy is the exchange, the currency of business. That's one and all at work, right? So when you're doing this kind of work, now forget about hope, forget about outcome, forget about destiny, forget about identities, forget about all the shit that humanity claims in what they say. You can have those worlds. There's plenty of them out there. Go find them. But what we're talking about is you looking yourself in the mirror and say, I'm a God. I'm not a lesser God. I didn't lose my Godship. I'm right here, right now. And I don't know what the fuck God means. So I'm going to go ahead and discover it with my own insight and my own ability, because I am not incapable of this, right? If you're awake and you're listening to this, this is a vibrational match. This means this now is your potential. If you've been doing the work, then continue the work. You don't stop doing the work. Sometimes you want to stop doing the work, but you can't. Because once you get a taste of your light, you can't darken it. You can never forget. But I would say when you get in those times of absolute extreme frustration and anger and rage, in some cases, continue to do the work in that moment. And if that moment means losing your shit and getting upset, if that moment means whatever the way you feel in the moment needs to be expressed, that's your work, express it. Don't hesitate on it. Don't delay, don't regret, don't deny your journey. See, this outside bubble that we valued as something to conform to has given us paralyzation, hesitation, an absolute fear of our own birthing right of creator. And that's part of the experience. That's this masterful game that we've come up with. And someone had told me today about Abraham said, you don't know how much you really wanted to be in these bodies. And we really did, because we can't get this anywhere else, any way else, unless we create a fractal that knows nothing. And then all we know is what we covet. Our belief systems are of our culture that we're raised in. And then those are looked at and as different. And those expresses of self are shunned and killed and murdered and destroyed and revered and made famous. And then you're in there looking at all these realities, trying to figure out where to go to maintain some kind of sense of control of your reality, that you're doing the right things according to your teachers and your moms and your dads to have a good life. This isn't a good life or is a bad life. It's a master class. It's an evolution of self-discovery to go to a place to where in no other existence can we lose our godship and awareness and then have the possibility to return to that while we're in that emptiness, while we're in that forgotten state. We all know when we die, we go home. Yippee skippy. I can give a rat's ass about going home. I'm not interested in going back to my whole self because I'm here. I don't know all parts of it, but I know I'm worth the journey. So I've got to look at those ideas. I've got to constantly look at myself and realize it. And I got pissed off today. I'll tell you a little story about a man named Jed. So I got pissed today because I had a thing. Look, I was taught to lie. I was taught to lie in this society because I would get in trouble. And if I got in trouble, I got spanked. And I got yelled at more so. I got spanked a few times, not many times, but a few times. But I got abused with criticisms. So your criticisms build up over time and they become very tender because I'm 55 years old and I'm still being criticized because my mind is allowing that criticism to come in. So when I was taught to lie, it was to defend. What was I defending? My failures. Because I was always a failure. I was horrible in school. My handwriting sucked. That's my handwriting, right? It's not good. It's never been good. I learned to type. I don't like to type either. So school was a train wreck for me. I wasn't interested in school. I was interested in other things. Sometimes they were in the relationship with school, namely, at the time it was my clarinet, right? But my music was very intriguing to me. I enjoyed the fuck out of music, right? I enjoyed that. But not all aspects of school were enjoyable because I didn't understand them. I didn't understand what we were doing here. So I was automatically shoveled over here. And that's a bit of a victimization statement, isn't it? But we're communicating, so let's take the journey together. So I'm put over here in this idea, and then I'm criticized, right? I got to get a dumber reading book. I got to get the dumber classes or something. So anyways, so I lied to cover up my failures, the reasons why. And I was a good liar. It's probably why I was a good salesman, right? So I discovered something else about that reaction. It's because when I told the truth, my truth came off as a lie because I didn't know how to tell the truth, because I didn't know I was lying. I was always being the same person, so the vibration was the same. So whenever I told the truth, people wouldn't believe me anyway. Because maybe they thought they was lying all the time. And most of the time I was. So when I'm telling the truth and someone's not listening to me, that was a tender spot. Because they didn't believe me. Why won't someone believe me? And why did I get mad because someone doesn't believe me, or they're not listening to me, or they're not following what I've taught? Well, because I'm an arrogant fuck. That's why. Because I'm relying on the identity and acceptance of someone else to validate me. And that's a very painful fucking discovery. It hurts. It hurts because I don't have enough worth to not worry about whether someone believes me or not. And my truth is subjective to me. And what the fuck does that mean in a world where truth is always graded by an authority? Whether that authority is a classmate, a teacher, a mother, a father, a grandparent, a society itself, law-abiding society itself. All of these things in the structures of politics to religions are validated truths that are current and also changing. We always said back in 1920s, we drilled holes to let the demons out. And in that time, it's okay to take a person and drill a fucking hole in their head and get the demons out. Demons are away. And meanwhile, a guy's got a fucking hole in his goddamn head because at the time, that was valid. So you can see the time of the now is validated. And in history, we usually apologize for the things that we've done, right? We wiped out 400 million Native Americans. We don't have a memorial for them. You know, we gave them a month. Yay. But that was the self and the now. So everything is relative. If it's valuable, it's hard, and we keep it alive because it was such an atrocity. But here's the same equal atrocity or more, and we don't give a fuck about it. So we got to stop looking and validating ourselves through the memory and time and get current with yourself in the now and start to take those evolutionary steps and not rely on the comfort and security of measured time as a fortress and a way to attack yourself and defend yourself at the same time, and attack others with knowledge of history. We can come up with all the ideas and tell someone that's wrong, and we want you to be upset because your people did that to our people. I don't know if you guys notice, we're a fucking collective. And until we start behaving like a collective, then we're going to stay divided. But again, we can't force it because forcing obviously doesn't work. It's made our police officers into fucking tyrants, into just trigger happy motherfuckers because they're scared to death and they have no value, but you give them a gun and now they got worth, and they'll use that gun in the absolute bliss of righteousness. And that's the society we created. So the work is not about fixing society. It's not looking at the atrocities of time. It's looking at yourself and the way you're relating to your reality in the now. And that's the work you got to do. So you can't use the reasons why any longer for your behavior. Your behavior is immeasurable and unjudgeable. And I think it was 1953, we created air conditioning, right? Before air conditioning, how did they survive? Well, they didn't know about air conditioning, so there wasn't an option to have a bad time about the air. It just was. The reason why I'm saying that is because there was no air conditioning, and there was. So here's a guy that created air conditioning because he had an idea, and he followed that idea. And he didn't know how. I promise you, he didn't know how. There was no school he went to create an air conditioning. He didn't have instructions. He had his will. So take out the air conditioning, let's look at your reality. I want you to look at your will and your reality and create not an object of future that has an emotional relationship, like a dynasty, like a new invention, or like something. You can create those. Stick with me now. Those ideas are valid, but not the emotional relationship, because that's another identity cast forward in time. And then you have to travel to it through the ideas of conforming your actions to that dream, which keeps you limited because the change in the now is constant. So you have an idea of what you want to create in the now, not in time. Time may give you a picture with your foresight or your insight, but the now is how you do it. And you don't have instructions in the now. We're so hell bent on how to do things. We have to be children all the way until we die. We're still children when we go to the fucking funeral home. We're still listening to what these people are telling us how it is as a collective, not an individual. We're just looking at the human experience, okay? So a light bearer, such as yourself, that's an enlightening, evolving your singular I am with your own will, your own truth, vibrates. And that vibrates offers change. And change is picked up by someone looking for change within their kingdom. They're not going to change to match you. They're just taking your light, your worth. It's not the details. It's not what you have to, you got to wear what I wear. You're not a fucking influencer. You're a light being becoming vibrationally aware of its own self. Each kingdom is unique to itself and it vibrates only what it's ever known, its worth. Why do you think we have so much lack? Because we're worth our lack. Lack works. Success works. We're worth it because that's our value. So all truths are true, but now it's the relationship to the truth of the self that you have to get nasty with. So when you're doing this constant work of evolution, self-discovery, you have to be in the now with no instructions. You have to live the unknown edge. You have to walk on it gallantly with no apologize. You have to walk in your divinity, your divine nonchalance of I've got this. And you're going to be shaken up because you don't have the memories of time, of safety and security and direction. My channel is not a how-to. My channel is, hey, you're worth your own goddamn choice. Now find it. And through my work, I've discovered these relationships and I put them out there and you do what the hell you want with them. But I can tell you what, I'm not the same person I was 9 years ago, and I'm not going to be the same person next year. That would be a tragedy. Okay? I'm going to be what I am in the now, and whatever that is likened to has nothing to do with memory or time or a comparison against the current standard of humanity. It is going to be the uniqueness of me. And that's a state of being that is unquestionable. That's beyond emotion. It's the motion of isness. It's I am. You don't feel fucking happy. You don't feel fucking sad. You're this isness. When you run across your happiness and sadness, those are vibrational indicators of moving through your belief systems so you can look at them with your attention and focus and understand the relationship with those things. Do I have happiness? Absolutely. But I don't grab the happiness predicated on something that makes me happy. My happiness is felt and created and realized. Do I go through my turmoils when I'm in the shit of evolution? Absolutely. Do I get angry and upset and sad? Yes. Do I work through it with my diligence? I've got this? Absolutely. Because I'm going to see this thing to its end. And I don't know what end that is. I have time so I can have a conclusion, but I'm not going to finite it in an idea of a conclusion according to myself in the now because I haven't been there. I'm here. Time will give me a memory that allows me to see my own evolution, but I'm not going to cast with my memory forward in time what it's going to look like. I'm not that arrogant. I used to be, but not anymore. I'm not going to look to the future and say that's the ending. Because I don't know. But now I'm not at a loss of self and I'm not in a rush. I have 100,000 years if I wanted to. I can do this for an eternity if I wanted to. I don't know the details, but I'm not worried about the body or the lifetimes or that. I'm here. This is eternal. this awareness. And if I focus on this vibration for as long as I want, because I'm getting myself out of it, and why would I vibrate to something else? Because I need to escape from this. I don't need to escape from humanity. I need to dive into it. I need to swim in it. And I need to become it so I can offer this ideas to myself of evolution. And the byproduct is allowing that light to be shown upon humanity so others may take up their own light and become their journey. Right? I think so. Hang on. How are we doing? Good, good. Hello, Bridget. Ah, there you go. So, when you're having a bad time and your mind is selling you stories and you're starting to get lower and lower and lower, and you're just raging, you're mad, and you're upset, you need to stop and step back and look at yourself and go, all of this is me. I'm going to start owning this. I'm going to start owning my reality. I don't need to demand it. I'm going to command it with my will, my maturity, not my emotional crybaby of a self. Whatever happened to you, whatever is done to you that you're assigning as a cause is living in you. And that vibration is a truth, and it will vibrate frequencies and it'll track realities. And it'll give you whatever experience truth that is. And when you find it and you look at it and you are ready to let go of it, take the chance on yourself that you don't need that identity of pain any longer, because without that, you don't know who you're going to be. Well, you're not a fucking who. You're not a goddamn how. You're a what? What are you? A creator. Okay? So you don't need to maintain your image. You need to transcend it by saying, this is mine. It hurts, it sucks. I'm not going to cover it up with drugs. I'm not going to cover it up with mantras. I'm not going to cover it up with escapisms of any kind. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to look at that and I'm going to fucking suffer my own evolution and say, that's my shit. They did it. They did it. They did it. It's their fault. Yes, motherfucker, I hate them all, but it's mine. It's the way I'm seeing reality. I'm going to go ahead and start owning that. And that work will lead to deeper cores of yourself, and you'll start vibrating shit, and then you're going to be surprised on how much fucking shit, and it looks like it's never going to end, but you stay in the now and realize, I've got this, over and over and fucking over and over again. It's not about an image. It's about not about the outside, what it is supposed to be. It's about what you are now internally. We've always been that. We've never been looking at ourselves in a way of opposition. Humanity has gifted us with that. We can see ourselves from an objectional point of view, and we can criticize the living fuck out of ourselves. We can do that. And we're good at it. And we can go home while we're awake. We don't need the exit plan. So just realize, stop looking in time when it's going to end, when it's going to get better. Accept it is what it is right now. Better and worse are validated only through emotions. The journey is constant and changing, and you will start to feel, not emotionally think about and equate that feeling to an emotional status. You will feel the isness, which is inequatable or unrelatable to an emotion. It's different and it's unexplainable. It is only discovered by the one that goes in and does the work about themselves. And this is true because I have enough people that reflected back to me, fucking hey man, I got this. Because they've done the work and they're still doing the work today. Because it's not over. We don't know when it's over because we're not validating time. We're currently in the idea of evolution of ourselves. So it's worth the journey, but do the constant work. It's worth the self-discovery that doesn't rely on people's opinions. There's a whole bunch of stuff we can talk about, and we're going to continue to talk about it so we can do this. If we're going to start acting like a collective, we got to represent a collective attitude, a collective idea. So collect yourself, collect all your fractals, and take all of those belief systems that you're behaving as an identity, all those fucking points of view, and bring them all home and become the isness of one. And collect all those selves so you can represent the I am and allow other peoples to do that. And then the collective is a participant in idea anyway. Because we're only acting in accord with the truth of ourselves, and no one has a true problem with anyone else's truth. Only opposition has a problem with anyone else's truth. Good stuff. How long have we been on? All for a spell, don't you know? You're welcome. Roxy, you've been a part of my life for 7 years now. Booyah! Tasha, hi baby. Hello, Bridget. Very good. All right, guys. So continue to the work. You know how to get a hold of me. You got some ideas. You need some reflection back. Go ahead and email me. And of course, if you like to donate, you can donate too. And just know you're worth it. You know, just know you're worth this internal idea. I think the last thing I just popped in I wanted to say is don't have any expectations about how it's going to play out. Expectations is another value of lack that is dominating in time. Okay? Stay now. All right, guys. I love you all. Journey well, masters. If you need me, you know where you're at. You know where I'm at. I love you all. Take care. Bye, everyone.